Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, here to continue my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. And this was played on board 177. We have like high 1500s versus high 1400s rating advantage. And our man is Wu W23, okay? And he's playing pjleggma, and this game features a lot of pins. It's interesting, and we'll see what White does wrong here, because White just gets himself kind of in a pickle early. This is all book here. How could White mess up with the Nimzo-Indian defense? Well, his next move is okay, but it's not really a direct challenge to the Nimzo-Indian. And it seemed to me like that White just lost his thread here as to what he was trying to accomplish and just wasn't paying attention. We'll see here. Okay, bishop d2. Now the purpose of this move is to avoid a double pawn. Okay, and okay, I can respect that if you're trying to avoid a double pawn. Let's see what happens. But it's really not going to give White any really winning chances. That's another thing about it too. Both sides continue their development, and now White spends the tempo with a3 and Black captures. But now Black is able to play knight e4, and this will essentially force Black or White to give back the dark squared bishop. And this is where White outwitted himself. What he should play is just queen c2 or rook c1, and then if Black takes the bishop, he'll recapture it and maintain his pawn structure, and the game will be essentially even. But it'll be a rather tame game. In other words, White really won't have any winning chances. The game will be equal, and then both sides just sit down and play a game of chess. But White plays a very peculiar move, knight d2, and we'll see what he has in mind. It seems to make sense in a way, but it has a tactical flaw to it. What White is trying to do is White's willing to give back that bishop, but he doesn't want double pawns, so he concocts a strategy to make sure this doesn't happen. But his strategy is not good in the fact that he doesn't help his development. Moving the rook to c1 or the queen to c2 will develop one of those pieces. The knight was already developed. It does not need to move again. And now Black takes the bishop. And what White should just play is take the knight. But as I said, White outwits himself and plays queen b3. And here we see the purpose of knight d2. The white knight on d2 is controlling the e4 square, and the black knight has no safe retreat. Well, there's one drawback with the strategy. It's a little tactic called the desperado. The knight is lost. It's going to be captured no matter what. There's no way Black can save it. White is correct in this assumption that he has trapped the knight. But the problem is this knight just goes in desperados, meaning it gives itself up for what it can get. It just grabs this pawn on e2, and Black has won a pawn. So, as I said, White has outwitted himself here. Anyway, now Black develops his bishop and has a threat on the pawn on g2. White castles, and Black just takes a share in the center. Okay. Now here I was talking about a lot of pins. Here's in a way a pin. This pawn on d5 is pinned, although he could take it in this position because there's a tempo on the queen. But as I said, it's a game of pins. So now the bishop goes and pins the c pawn. White breaks the pin. Now Black develops his knight, and now this has a drawback to it because it drops this pawn on d4. And now there's a tempo on the queen, and the queen moves and takes the knight. Now, takes the bishop, recaptures the knight, and Black is a pawn ahead and about to win a second one. And as I said, it's a game of pins. Now that pawn gets pinned again, and White breaks the pin, and black just goes and collects the second pawn. And black is ahead 2 pawns at move 17 and threatening a checkmate in 1 move. So strategically, black is dead winning. White doesn't have enough to compensate for it. He must break the mate threat, and black develops a rook, and development is even, and both sides have developed their minor piece, their queen, and 1 rook. And black is winning. It's just a matter of time here. And there really isn't too much more to the game because the basic outcome is determined. Black just needs to liquidate material and win the endgame. Okay, so now white has a little threat, but it's not really much to worry about because he can just trade queens. Okay, and black continues his development and starts softening up the white pawns. That forces off an exchange, and white obliges by trading off a little too quick. And now the black rook is active, the white rook isn't. White's got weak pawns on a3 and e4. It's all pretty routine from here. White can just be expect to see another pawn fall eventually, and a pass pawn be created. There's nothing he can do about it. So black just starts slowly bringing his king up, and white advances his pawns, making him more weak. But really, white has no choice. The king comes over to the d file, and black's in no hurry to take his rook off the file until his own king can keep the white rook out. You know, this was a good strategy black used. Let me just back it up and I'll explain it. In this position, black could attack this pawn, and there's no way white can defend that pawn. But white has a little subtle move, rook d1, and black can't play rook takes e4 because he gets back mated. You see that? Let me just show you in case you're not sure. See, now you can't take this pawn because, whoops, there's a mate. And suddenly white is winning, or has won, I should say. So what black plays is black eliminates that mate threat and he centralizes his king. Now, once again, after g4, white could go after this pawn, and probably is going to be okay if he does. But all of a sudden, maybe this rook is going to become a nuisance. Maybe, we don't know yet. But why it could go there, it could go over here. But why trouble yourself with this when you don't have to? It looks to me like black could just grab this pawn with check and be winning. But why complicate matters? Why give your opponent more chances? Just squeeze him to death, and that's what the king maneuver does. See, there's no hurry. These pawns, these white pawns are not going anywhere. You don't have to win them now. You're going to win them soon enough. And sometimes we just get eager to take free pawns, and then we see the opponent's rook get active, and only takes another imprecision or two, and suddenly we're not winning the game anymore. And I've seen it happen, believe me. So now again, white's still stuck with all those weak pawns, and now black goes and ties white down to defending one, but he doesn't want to make his rook passive on e1, and black will just make sure he gets a pass pawn here real quick. Black's winning. But there goes that pawn. Now he's down 3 pawns. And now basically white should resign here. His next move is tantamount to that. Now he's just going into a clearly lost king and pawn ending down 3 pawns. And white played a number of moves. I don't know why. Back in the days of postcards, it got very annoying if somebody played on a position like this. I had one friend, he was playing a game with somebody who was in a similar situation like this as white, and said, "Why do you play on? You're clearly going to lose." And the guy wrote back, "Well, I've had a number of my opponents die on me." So if you die in a game when it's still in progress, guess what? You lose. And about 2 or 3 moves later, my friend received a card from his opponent's widow. "I'm sorry to inform you, but my husband has passed away. He enjoyed playing you. Thank you so much." So he was waiting for my friend to die, and he beat him to it. Anyway, there's really Nothing. Black's kind of making kind of funny moves with his pawns. He's in effect, black has weakened his pawn structure here. See, white could push by f5. This is a backward pawn. This is a backward pawn. Doesn't have a lot of mobility, but white's running out of pawn moves. Even though black isn't mobilizing his pawns in the most picturesque way, there's nothing white can do about it. His king will have to back up and give ground, and black will eventually promote a pawn. So white resigned here. Anyway, good game by WhiteElo. And let's get the other game in there and see what happens. And we'll flip the board. Okay. I have a French defense here. And it's the Tarrasch variation. And they follow theory for a few moves, but then black uncorks what we call a novelty. In other words, a move that's not been played before. Well, maybe it's been played by somebody, but it's not in the databases. There's plenty of moves here available for black. F6 being one of them. I suppose you could play bishop e7, maybe b6. I don't know, but he comes up with this queen move, and white comes up with an interesting reply. He's willing to give up this pawn to displace the black queen. Let's take a quick look at that. This queen doesn't have a great deal of a future on h3. It's true white can no longer castle kingside, but black's in just a wee bit of a pickle here, I think. He can't develop this bishop necessarily. Well, without weakening g7. Well, yeah, he could. He could in this position here. Let me just show you. He could play this check, but this is helping white develop. And now this pawn falls, and structurally white is better off here. Black has traded off his better bishop, and his remaining bishop is not good at all. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. There's a knight hanging. You have to take with the knight on d2. Sorry. Let's see, I have to be careful here. How long has that knight been hanging? Okay, queen takes g2. I do this from time to time. Okay, we'll do the other alternative, knight g3. Okay, now everything is hunkered down and protected. Let's see. Suppose we do this check now. The point is, if bishop d2, you have to take back with the knight. You can't take with the queen because f3 is going to fall again. I don't know. Let's see. Probably missing something in here. Yeah, you're going to have to play knight g3. Okay, he could play this check, but let's see. Wait, we're a little too quick here. Take back with the knight. Again, this queen is really not in the best situation here, and at some point it's going to have to exit by h3, and then it's not clear exactly how this queen's going to get back and play again. Meanwhile, white will just continue his development, and let's see. I want to try to get this move in, but this bishop on d3 is hanging. This is hanging here. Maybe black had something here. What am I missing? Let's see. Queen takes. Now, if you're going to play queen g5, you should go through with it. It's probably something in here. But this is how you get better at chess. You analyze the position. I'm not sure what's happening here. If I had white in the position where queen g5 came in, I would look it up in theory first, find it wasn't played, and I'd start analyzing. So obviously on queen takes g2, you can't play rook g1, right? Because there's a fork. So, we also have this move. Here's an interesting move. No, we can't do that move. Queen takes rook. See? you always analyze bad moves when you analyze. Here I was thinking I'm covering h3, and I'm going to force the queen back here, but the rook's hanging. No, you have to play knight g3. Then comes a check, and let's see. White does have the interesting move king e2 here. Okay, because how does black get at the king? d4 is covered. Now let's make a bad move for black. This way I can illustrate better. If I was sitting with a face-to-face, I'd just have white move or something. But you can't. The interface won't let you, so I'm just going to play b5. Now white has this interesting move, shutting the queen in. How does this queen get out? Answer is it looks like it doesn't. So the point I'm trying to illustrate here is black needs to bring his queen back. Now, where does the queen go next? It's got g4. Let's see. I don't want to really move this knight. d4 will hang with check. I don't know. I'm thinking white's okay here. White's got a development advantage. Let's see. Kick this. Probably the safest square is come back here. I don't know. Let's leave that bishop hanging out to dry. How about this move? I actually have a better move. Let's put this bishop on e3. Let's cover this pawn because it became a problem in some lines. Now, if the queen tries to run out, here comes h3. And suddenly black is embarrassed. Yeah, see, we've trapped the queen. So, how does black continue? You can't castle. Well, you could castle, I guess. But white has some definite attacking chances coming up here. Let's see. Knight g5. Queen check. f3. Queen back to where here? And now you can pick up this pawn. Knight take. This looks really strong for white. So, if black's going to play queen g5, he should have foreseen all this. Let's look at what happened. But white came up with knight f3. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt that since he's played well in the other game, that he's worked all this out. Not everybody plays blitz chess in these online games. Some people actually take their time. And knight f3, it turns out, is a good move, and it's just risky for black to grab this pawn. And maybe black did take some time. He chose not to take it. He went ahead and gave that check. And now white's able to turn this knight to the scene of the crime. He still doesn't take it because now he's going to actually drop this pawn on g7. And maybe he saw that much, and he decided to bring the queen back to e7. And white comes up with a crafty move here. Bishop a3. This stops black from castling. Although he may not want to castle, it might be one of those positions where white doesn't stop and win material. White goes for an attack. Let's see. Bishop takes. And here comes a check. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to play black here. Sometimes you can get away with these moves. Sometimes you can't. Clearly, king h1 just runs into queen h5, and I think it's curtains. You got to come out, and the theme is to bring the queen here, and now all kinds of dastardly things are being threatened. So let's see, f5. Queen here threatens a nasty mate. Black's king has no move. Black is losing. See? But White has some happy choices here. So castling is definitely out. And if anything, if that fails, if castles, if you analyze the bishop takes fails, here, I'll just show you. Then you have this to fall back on, and that just wins material. And maybe this will come up next move. Okay, so it's a pretty happy position to be in. So Black elects to play f6 instead, and then White shows his intention. He's going to stop Black from castling. And now here, Black commits a mistake. He needs to take back with the pawn and maintain a hold on e5. He takes with the knight, and that's going to weaken e5. And White's trying to blast the position open, even though his own king's in the center. This is the correct strategy, because we're not sure when this Black king is going to be able to find safety. He can't castle. So Black is trying to find a way to get him castled, but it just doesn't work, as we'll see. Clearly, I think if pawn takes, bishop takes, and this king is in big trouble. Even if he tries to castle queenside, the position's opened up over there. Black has virtually no attacking chances on the White king. White will come up with something. Anyway, he tries knight e7, and this blocks the f8 squared. Black's getting ready to castle, but it also weakened e5 even further. And now the queen goes back to g8. Yuck. Maybe he had to try queen h5, but let's see. Queen h5, who knows? Maybe White could even get away with g4 here, or just ignore the queen and the queen trade offer and put his queen on b3 or even c2. Now White's doing well here. So the queen goes back to g8, and White opens up the position, and now the c4 square is vacated, so he takes it. And Black just is desperate, throws his knight into the center of the game, hoping to do something, but the Black king's in serious trouble now. Now the knight's loose. He brings it back. There goes a pawn with check. And now the queen's penetrating, and White hasn't even bothered to castle. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to because he's got enough attacking forces in place to just swarm all over Black. And at this point, Black resigned because he's going to have a disaster on his hands. There's just no way to hold the avalanche of White pieces off. King d7 just runs into queen c6 check, and where's the king go? There's one legal square, and then you check him here, and this comes back, and I'm pretty sure White can find a win here easily enough. Let's just take that. You can't take the threatening a mate on d7, and if king takes c8, queen takes c7 mate. Anyway, Black broke from opening theory in 2 games and was punished for it. So you start out with a reasonable game, and then it just goes downhill when you try to come up with your own lines. But anyway, well played by Woo HW23, and I thank all for you looking at the game. And there'll be more. You know that. A lot more. Take care.